You're always hella mad, Torps, let's be honest. Ruthless. Also true. Take it back, Evil. I need you to take it back. I am the greatest Torp boat daring you've ever seen. Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're doing something I never thought I would try in World of Warships. Torp build daring? What? This is one of my favorite destroyers in the entire game. I absolutely love the concealment, the gunpowder, the heals, the burst smoke generators here, the personal hydro. It all makes for a very comfortable destroyer hunting, cap contesting experience. One of the best in my opinion. I really like this ship. But I don't play it as a Torp build. It's not really where this ship shines. It has Torps, they're usable enough. But with the new legendary mod, it just might become my favorite Torp destroyer in the entire game. We'll just take a little dev strike on the enemy destroyer. This legendary mod now buffs the Torps by quite a lot. That's what it used to do too, but it's way more usable. This new mod gives us 10% better concealment, which is required considering it's in the 5th upgrade slot, which competes with the concealment upgrade module, which is mandatory on pretty much every destroyer, certainly on daring. That's a change they made here. This new legendary mod now giving 10% detect means it's no longer we're going for a change of role with daring, a Torp focused daring, and getting worse detection on a Torp boat. That did not feel good to me. Glad to see that was changed. We now also get 15% better Torp speed. We retain the old 20% better Torp reload time. And now there's a penalty to our main battery reload. This makes so much more sense to me. We retain the old concealment of daring without running the legendary mod instead of getting worse detect on a Torp boat. And now, when we're running a Torp build daring, we have a penalty to our main gun reload, firmly cementing that change in playstyle. I think that is a really good change here. We also no longer get a buff to our torpedo damage. That is another change here. We used to get a big bonus to our Torp alpha damage, but we did not have that bonus to torpedo speed. For me personally, I really like the Torp speed. The Torps already do a ton of damage here, 16,767. Doesn't take many of these Torps to hit to do a ton of damage into almost any ship in the game. The downside here being 10-kilometer Torps only. So running a Torp boat that can't quite Torp from outside of a lot of radar ranges at tier 10 makes it a little awkward. What daring has though is healing and these very short burst smoke generators. Makes it incredibly comfortable to take some engagements, smoke up, heal back up, and not feel like you've lost a ton of HP early on when you get caught off guard as a Torp boat. I also really like that even with a 12% nerf to our DPM with this legendary mod, daring just still has a lot of DPM. So we can still play a destroyer hunter role. This is, I think, why it's quickly becoming my favorite Torp boat now, is that I still feel like I have guns good enough to compete with a lot of the other hybrid destroyers. And our concealment still being 6 kilometers means I can choose to engage with some of the poorer concealment but better gunboats. I can choose when to engage and when not to engage with those. The short burst smokes allow me to disengage from bad situations. They allow me to smoke up and farm a little bit. They allow me to feel quite confident to play a little more aggressively, which we need to, considering we only have 10-kilometer Torps here trying to run this Torp build. Heals, of course, are incredible on any ship, but destroyers in particular tend to die rather quickly at tier 10, and having extra healing, that is a huge difference maker for me personally. I like to play a little closer, we take risks, and we're allowed to heal back from them. Playing aggressively on flanks means you help your teammates win those flanks. You help them with knowing where Torps are or are not coming from. More importantly, this ship also gets personal hydro, right? 3-kilometer hydro, allowing us to more easily just not eat enemy torpedo salvos. Daring is really comfortable, okay? So running this ship now with Torp build, getting our torpedo reload down to 76.5 seconds is pretty fun, okay? It is really, really fun to play with, as well as a near 80 knot Torp speed. These Torps are incredibly fast now, especially for how much damage they deal. 80 knot Torps dealing almost 17,000 damage. We also can do narrow spreads or just single launch them too, which is extremely fun as well. Daring is an awesome destroyer, and if you've wanted to play a more hybrid focused role on the torpedoes with Daring, I do think this legendary mod is a very interesting one to go for. It does nerf your DPM though. 12% is essentially the full reload mod in the 6th upgrade slot for main guns. And the build I was running here fully went Torps. We're full Torp build here, 6th upgrade slot, legendary mod in the 5th upgrade slot. Even our 3rd upgrade slot, I went full torpedo speed there instead of dispersion. So every once in a while, we're going to miss some salvos because of that with our main guns. And on the commander, didn't buff the guns at all. Full Torp buffs. And I'm still confident to just run around with these main guns because, again, Daring base is just so powerful on the main guns. We still have near 200k HE DPM, which, I mean, something like Shimikaze's around the 130, 140k HE DPM range. Yeah, we still absolutely can run down enemy Torp boats because we still have a great DPM. That's the key here for me. When I play a Torp boat, I feel like I am missing a key element of battle impact, and that is being able to aggressively take fights with enemy destroyers, winning those, and therefore doing a great job of winning the flank for my team. I find there's a lot of battle impact there. I feel really good about playing that role. And when I play a destroyer that can't do that with the main guns, where it can't take those engagements, and I'm relying on spotting that gunboat destroyer for my team to shoot at, I find that sometimes my teammates won't shoot that destroyer, okay? And I really value the ability to take those engagements myself and take that responsibility myself. And Daring lets me do that now, which is really, really fun. Something you could even run is Legendary mod on Daring now, because you still retain the Concealment buff, but just go a full gun build anyway, like you normally would. Therefore, gaining 20% Torp reload, 15% Torp speed, and sure, you're not going to get a 76-second reload on these torpedoes, but you'll still get around 100-second reload on the Torps instead of the 125 of base Daring Torps. That in itself is a nice buff to have. So hybrid Daring with Legendary mod and then main gun reload, main gun dispersion, that kind of thing on the rest of the build could be a really solid role for this ship, because this Legendary mod now isn't as big of a penalty to the general playstyle, where 5% worse detect than normal hurts quite a bit for something like Daring. It's not the fastest shell velocity, and one of the key strengths of this ship is that 6-kilometer detect is extremely competitive with other hybrids and Torp boats, except you just massively out DPM them. That was the main strength of Daring, I felt. And having that old Legendary mod nerf the Concealment by 5% relative to just taking normal Conceal mod was a big reason that I just was not interested in it at all. Now I certainly am. And another reason I am a little more interested here is that we no longer get a buff to the alpha damage. But let's be honest, if we're landing Torps in this game, we're already doing a ton of damage. It's more important to gain a little more consistency on actually landing torpedoes through their speed, yes. The base speed of Daring Torps being 62 knots feels a little slow, okay? Something like this Yodo turning away like this, I'm not sure those Torps would have made it in time without all these massive speed bonuses to get close to 80 knots. Even if we don't take every single speed upgrade full Torp build, just taking the Legendary mod bumps the speed from 62 knots to a little over 70 knots. That's a big deal. That allows you to not have to lead nearly as much. The enemy has way less time to maneuver. Maybe they're doing a turnout, anything like that, a battleship doing something like that. That little bit of extra speed is going to make a big difference in how often you're able to hit enemy ships when they're doing a rather predictable action, like a full turn. Or even if they're just sailing in a straight line, completely oblivious, there's less time for them to think, oh, maybe I should be turning here before they eat those torpedoes. It's really valuable, and I much prefer that speed bonus instead of the alpha damage. Because I find if I'm landing the Torps, they're dealing massive damage anyway, even if I don't have that extra alpha damage bonus. I would rather have that consistency from better reload, obviously, but also speed. Speed is a big consistency factor in actually landing torpedoes. At least that's what I find as someone who is, let's say, not the best Torp boat player. I think that's fair to say. But we're still doing a great job here, getting an E combat scout, trying to play a little bit more on flanks like that. The spotting is absolutely incredible. as a destroyer, you really do need to be doing that for your team. It's an absolute game changer on a flank. I notice it instantly when my destroyer is playing well for spotting flanks out, contesting wide areas of the map. It's a huge help, okay? And we are definitely rewarded for it in that one. Single launch torpedoes, Venezia here. He doesn't get his reload, fortunately. The extra speed may be helping us out there. Otherwise, Venezia at close range probably could have one-shot me with his sap. It's that powerful. It's really fun to have the extra power on the torpedoes while still retaining this little bursty smoke up DPM an enemy ship. This Stalingrad had just used his radar before this clip, by the way. That's why I was willing to smoke up. Always be aware of those radars, and certainly it is a downside to be running a Torp build and not have 12 kilometers at least of range on your torpedoes. This is, I think, the one downside of daring Torp build. Something like Gearing having 16.5 kilometer Torp range, Yu Yang being 13.5, even Shimakaze with the 12s, unless you're taking F3s, but 12s are much more consistent for that reason, where if there are 12 kilometer radars, even 10 kilometer radars, it's much easier to play as a Torp build on flanks like that. You feel like you're a little less locked out of the battle, even though radars certainly do feel that way a lot of the time. Having only 10 kilometers of range does limit us a little bit. However, I feel like Daring's toolkit, these smokes, these heals in particular, even the Hydro, allows Daring to play a little more aggressive, a little more risky than those other Torp boats, and get away with using a little shorter range torpedoes and actually still making them quite useful. We could take big hits and just heal back from them. It's really, really valuable. Another key element of Daring's survivability is not its speed, but its acceleration. The built-in British acceleration here is kind of wild. Look at how quickly we're able to jump up to 20 to 25 knots, then back down to 10 to 15. The ability to play with your speed is the key to Daring's survival a lot of the time at these closer ranges. If you just stay at full speed using your rudder, you're going to dodge a lot because you can drift around, but this acceleration up from 15 to 20 knots all the way to 30 knots is so quick that you really do need to be playing around with that speed and rudder to dodge a lot of incoming fire. Here, Stalingrad was patient, smart, waited for me to do a more predictable turn, and therefore we lost a lot of HP. But we can get a few of our torpedoes out at him. Not enough to take him out, but considering how that flank went, I think it was like 3 of us versus like half of their team. Daring's pretty good under pressure. I really like this ship, and now that I have the option to run it with Torps, this might be my favorite Torp boat in the game. Which is certainly not words I thought I would be saying about Daring, of all things. It's always been the main guns for me, but new Legendary mod, I think, adequately changes the playstyle. It is worth using, I think, if you can withstand a little bit worse DPM. That 12% certainly is a downside. When we go full DPM like this, we do drop down to 195k HE DPM and 241 AP DPM. If you haven't played Daring before, the AP is well worth using. Shorter fuse times, shorter fuse thresholds mean it actually arms on even some of the thinnest destroyers. So if they go broadside, well worth using. Improved pen angles as well. So that is a bit of a crutch we can use to make up for our worse DPM. But these torpedoes, 10 kilometer range is their only downside now in my mind. Great reload, great speed, great damage. The ability to single launch is absolutely hilarious too. A lot of fun there. And we retain these 6 kilometer detect now. 5% detection instead of 10% was a massive downside of going with this. Just competing with Concealment mod is one of the best, most useful mods for any destroyer in the entire game. So being 5% worse, half the benefit, it needed to be massively, massively better in many different ways. And it wasn't good enough, in my opinion, before. So good change wargaming makes it a lot more usable. Here is the rest of the build, if you're wondering what I was using. Yes, full Torp build, full Torp build. But there's hybrid builds that we could use that are maybe more sensible to still gain a lot of power on these torpedoes without losing quite so much of the guns. Like just going back to the basic recommended Daring build here, gets us back to a 2.6 second reload, HE DPM up over 233k still, which is, 12% worse because of keeping the legendary mod than you would normally have on gun build Daring, but That's still a lot of DPM. And our Torps here still reload in 100 seconds, which is quite solid. 71 knot speed here as well. Notice we've completely given up Swiftfish. We've completely given up Fill the Tubes. We've given up the speed here as well as the reload on the 6th slot. But just this legendary mod is enough to make the Torps a lot more valuable on something like Daring. And we retain a lot of the reload bonus that Daring gets over a lot of those other hybrid builds, and certainly the Torp boats. Daring is an absolute monster here, retaining healing. I mean, heals, bursty smokes, personal hydro. It's so good at close range, DD fights, cap contesting, anything like that. And what's really important about that is once you've won that engagement, you get a little bit of free reign on the enemy capital ships to torp them out. That's one of the main issues I also find with destroyers that are full Torp boats is I don't feel like I have the power level to take those DD engagements, win them, which will allow me to then go make use of my incredible torpedo power, right? That's the key difference here, is that Daring can just easily win those fights and then go take advantage of some better torpedoes. And that's why I like it so much. I'm a little bit less reliant on my teammates to deal with the enemy destroyer for me, and then I can go Torp. I think that's why I like this so much, is I feel a little more in control of my match. But let me know what you think in the comments down below about the new Daring Legendary mod. I might even have to get it on my main account because this was really fun. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.